Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the final weekly review / match preview of the season as I look back on, well, not a lot this week. It's been a pretty quiet week after the crazy weekend, last weekend, that saw our manager relieved of his duties with immediate effect, and the 2-0 defeat to playoff entrance Charlton. It's been rather quiet for a few days. Not a lot from the chairman, not a lot from the club. So all we have to gauge in terms of new manager is betting markets, and if we believe them, Bet Victor and Sky Bet are the two most prominent that I've been looking at. It looks like it's either Steve Evans or Paul Rayner. Paul Rayner is obviously historically Steve Evans' assistant, both in as short as evens. I think Paul Rayner's 2-5 with Bet Victor as well. So if you believe that, then it looks like he's your man, potentially with Mr. Evans upstairs in a director of football role. I've spoken plenty about my thoughts on Steve Evans, and the same applies to Paul Rayner. It's not for me, and I understand that other people have different opinions, and that's fine. Got no issue with that. But I can't reiterate enough that I'm not going to back the appointment of Steve Evans, and I won't back the appointment of Paul Rayner either. I just think, as I've already said plenty of times over the last 7 days, there's so many better options out there, out of work, that are available. But anyway, that's enough about that for now. We've spoken about that long and hard, and probably enough and too much maybe over the last few days. In terms of player interaction and in the press this week, Dean Parrett speaks about his frustration at a season of underachievement. He thinks the team have underachieved considering the talent in the squad, and he thinks that he's underachieved. Certainly agree in terms of himself. I think when the signings all came in last summer, he was the one that we were most excited about. He was probably the marquee one of the 6, if you thought, along with perhaps Callum Riley. But for one reason or another, it's just not really worked out. I've said plenty of times this season that he's got all the ability in the world at this level, but he's had too many injuries, and that's not always his fault. If you look at the first problem he suffered, that was at home to Burton, second game of the season. Later became very apparent it was due to our really dodgy pitch that ended up being ripped up and relayed, and since then it's been very stop-start. I mean, in all competitions he's made 31 appearances, but how many of them are 90 minutes? I'd imagine it's probably 10 or less. 1 goal and 4 assists. So in terms of output, it's 5 goals he's been directly involved with in 30 odd appearances, so it's 1 in 6. Which I'm sure Dino would say is not up to his standards, and fingers crossed we can get a proper pre-season into him this summer and see the best of him in 2019-20. But obviously with the managerial situation up in the air, we're not really sure what's going to happen, because a new bloke could come in and not fancy him, a new bloke could come in and not fancy any of the players, and we know Mr. Evans' penchant for ripping squads apart and bringing in 15, 20 new players. He'd done it at Peterborough. Didn't work. Did he improve them? Probably not. They were just outside the playoffs when he took over. They were just outside the playoffs at best when he left. Mansfield, I think the target was automatic promotion. Where did he leave them? Just inside or just outside the League 2 playoffs. So, but again, I've said I'm not going to talk about it too much. Yeah, that's really it in terms of news for the week. We do have one final fixture to prepare for. Mark Patterson and Barry Fuller were talking in the press conference Thursday morning, and we travel a long way north for the final day. I know plenty are going up there to make a weekend of it, and we play this lot. Blackpool away. Blackpool sitting comfortably in higher mid-table at the moment. There was talk of a playoff push a few weeks ago, but that's fizzled out due to an indifferent run of form in recent weeks, pretty much like ourselves. So in terms of last 6 overall, Blackpool draw, lost, draw, 1, lost. So they've only won 6 points from the last 18 available in League 1. Gills in that time 5 points from 18. That's a solitary win, 2 draws and 3 defeats. So almost a mirror image. Blackpool at Bloomfield Road in the last 6, lost, drawn, lost 1. So a solitary win in 6 at home, a solitary win in 6 overall. They've taken 6 points from the last 18 available at Bloomfield Road, and that win came a couple of weeks ago in their Northern Derby against Fleetwood. I think a late winner in that game. Aside from that, it's very indifferent form. Perhaps you could level at them that they're a squad that's proverbially on the beach. Season has ended, nothing to play for. Gills away from home over the last 6, in fairness to us, have been pretty decent. We've gone win, draw, draw, win, lost, draw. The only defeat in that time was to Peterborough, a 2-0 reversal a couple of Saturdays ago. Aside from that, it's been a decent effort. So 1 defeat in 6 away for the Gills. Blackpool have only won 2 of their last 10 games in the league. So it'll be interesting what kind of intensity the game is played at with nothing to play for. Perhaps only personal pride, trying to sign off in style for your fans, and those players that are out of contract in the summer on both sides playing for their future, especially us trying to impress whoever the new manager could be. In terms of players, familiar faces, danger men, that type of thing for the Tangerines. Armand Ondwile, I think is how you pronounce it. He's their top scorer this season with 14 in all competitions. Curtis Tilt is a centre-back who I've rated. I think he's had a very good season. Probably would get in a team of the season if you excluded the top 6 or 7, which I think is all that Quest included in their team of the season, which was published on social media today. I think it was everyone that's in the playoffs or higher aside from Marcus Maddison. So be interesting to see what people's team of the season are if you exclude the top 6. If you have one, let us know, of course. And in terms of experience, Nathan Delfenuezo and Jay Spearing, both with bags of pedigree, especially at this level, bags of Premier League experience over the years, and still decent enough players. Curtis Tilt, again, I think is out of contract in the summer, so it could be an interesting one. I'd definitely have a look, but it depends geographically whether he'd be interested. But he might sign a new contract, but I'm just saying he's one that I like. In terms of team news for us, I think it's just no Gabriel Zakuani. There's hopeful that Callum Riley will be available for selection if needed, but he doesn't get into my 18. I would make a couple of changes. I would go Thomas Holy in goal, Luke O'Neill, Max Amer, Connor Ogilvie and Barry Fuller would keep the same. They've generally been very good for the last part of the season. All right, the form's dropped off a little bit in the last few weeks. But yeah, generally they've been very good. I would play Billy Bingham just in front. In a 3-man midfield, and I would have Mark Byrne and Leonardo da Silva Lopez either side of them. Up front, I would bring Tom Eaves back in. Could be his final game, his swan song, his last appearance in a Gillingham football shirt, so I think he deserves a start for all that he's done. Maybe that's a little bit sentimental, I don't know, but he's our top scorer for a reason. So I would have Tom Eaves through the middle, and I would play Brandon Hanlon and Elliot List from the side of him. Go up there and have a go. We've got nothing to lose. It'd be nice to go up there and win. Substitutes bench, I would have Thomas Hadler, Alex Lacey, Bradley Garmston, Dean Parrett, Graham Burke, Regan Charles Cook and Tarvon Campbell. That's my 7 for the bench, 18 in total. And in terms of a prediction, I think there's more at stake for us in terms of players trying to impress a new manager, more players trying to play for a contract. I think Blackpool have been on the beach for a while in terms of their results. So I'm going to go for a decent, entertaining 2-1 Gillingham win. And I'm going to back Brandon Hanlon to score again and end what has been a very decent campaign, especially the last portion. And I'm going to go with Tom Eaves to sign off potentially for the Gills with a goal, which I think would get him to 20 for the season in league alone, which would be a terrific achievement. And as I've said plenty of times, if he does move on and we don't see him again, then he goes with my best wishes. He's been phenomenal for us since he arrived in the summer of 2017. We met him January 2018 for a chat on the channel, an absolutely top bloke as well as a top player. And he has promised me he's going to buy me a beer on Sunday because myself, Boz and Stocky are attending the end of season Player of the Year dinner. So we'll be in slightly posher attire than you get used to seeing us. We have to wear a shirt and a tie. We'll probably have to have a wash behind the ears, brush our teeth and watch our P's and Q's. But looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing some people there, looking forward to having a drink with the players. Like we've said over the last week, a very weird ending, an almost sad ending to the season with Steve Lovell biting the bullet. But we cannot change it, and I for one am looking forward to the end of season party immensely. Should be a good evening. I'm sure the drink will be flowing. I did my Player of the Year picks. I did mention it last Thursday, I'd not done it. I did in the end plump for young Player of the Year, Brandon Hanlon. and I stuck with the big man up front, Tom Eaves, for Player of the Year. I just think that his goals have been super important to us, and if it wasn't for him this season and last, Christ knows where we'd be. Very harsh on Barry Fuller. I know he's been absolutely phenomenal since coming back in the summer. But for me, yeah, that's my picks. Brandon Hanlon and Tom Eaves. Goal of the season has now come out. You can vote for that. I believe the club published that on all their social media platforms this morning. I think there was 11 choices, so for me it'd be 11th Tom Eaves, first Tom Eaves, and second to 10th. See what I've already said. It has to be that goal against Portsmouth at Fratton Park. Unbelievable technique. The most perfect 3 touches you can imagine. And if I had to pick an alternative, it'd be Luke O'Neill, not just for the goal itself, but for the moment and who we were playing away at Luton. It was a phenomenal free kick, and he's done it 3 or 4 times this season. But in terms of importance and who we were playing, if I had to steer away from Tom Eaves, I'd go for Luke O'Neill's free kick at Kenilworth Road, which was, I think, myself, Boz and Stocky's favourite away day this season. Portsmouth was unbelievable to go there and win again against a side that was unbeaten at the time in the league. But Luton were 24, 25 unbeaten at the team, or something, 20-something unbeaten at the time, and we could have won the game. We were so good that day, and we deserved at least a point. And for a goal like that to level it up was excellent stuff, and it was one of our favourite match day lives of the whole campaign, and probably since we've launched the channel. Right. Not sure what we're going to do Sunday. Not sure what we're allowed to do. We might try and get some interviews with some slightly half-cut football players, which will be amusing, especially if we're half-cut as well. As I said last week, I'm on my own tonight. There was all 3 of us last Saturday for the final match day live. For all your support throughout the season, for all your likes, for all your shares, for all your retweets, for all your comments, for all your feedback, for all your discussions, for all your arguments, for all your opinions. That's what makes this channel. That's what makes the Facebook page. That's what makes Twitter so enjoyable for all 3 of us. And without you lot following us and chatting to us, it would be absolutely nothing. We love doing it. We love putting the content out there for you. Obviously, it'll quieten down a little bit in terms of content for the rest of the summer, but we've still got player contracts to talk through once the retain list gets published, whenever that may be. We'll have some sort of new management announcement to get through as well. But a massive, massive thank you from myself, from Boz and Stocky, and also Dave and Simon, who work on the channel from time to time. And until next time, up the Gills.